Among Us is probably one of the most played games right now, and if you haven't played it yourself, you've probably seen it before. And maybe you have been wondering, how could I make a game just as popular and just as engaging as this one? And I'm here to tell you that you can, with something called object-oriented programming. So, how does Among Us use object-oriented programming? For one thing, it codes all of its characters as objects. Objects having attributes that kind of define how they look and where they are on the screen, and also methods that define what the objects can and cannot do. So for example, these characters can do tasks and they can walk around the screen. But these are not the only objects within the game. There are also buttons that you can interact with that have their own specific methods and attributes, and there are also tasks. But why do we use object-oriented programming at all? One of the things is that it allows you to do something called encapsulation, where you can keep every single thing together in one place. So you can keep all of the code that's related to each object within a class. So for this guy, we are keeping all the functions that relate to how we can walk and do tasks together in one place so that we know where to find it. And also the idea of abstraction, where we can simplify the way that stuff works. So instead of having to have the long code for each function for walking and doing tasks, we can just have it in one place, and when we need it, we can just call on the method. And this is especially useful for when you have a lot of different kinds of tasks, for example, and they all kind of look the same. So instead of having to duplicate the code that tells you what each task does, you can do something called inheritance, where you can reuse attributes and methods from different classes and create a template class. So for example, you have a class for a task that shows how you would interact with the task and how you would complete it, and then you would inherit from this class and then define more specific functions for each individual task. The same thing applies to having characters which all kind of do the same thing. Crewmates, imposters, and ghosts have kind of the same methods and attributes. But here, with polymorphism, you can use the same type of object in different situations. All you have to do is code the general class, and then after that, you can change specific things. So for example, with the ghost, you can redefine the way that the ghost walks to allow it to walk through walls, and you can add on different tasks to the imposter to allow it to kill and to vent. And this looks very similar to inheritance, and it is in a sense just that you can also morph or change different functions to fit the character. And these are the main principles behind object-oriented programming. It keeps all your code together in one place, it makes it more readable, and you don't have to repeat stuff. And this kind of programming is used in very simple games like Pac-Man and Snake, and also in more complicated ones like Animal Crossing. And I hope that you will be able to use object-oriented programming to create your own games as well.